Is the linebacking crew of Kansas State getting the best they've ever been all season at the right time? I will say yes, and I will say no. And it might be not the way you are expecting it to be if you're predicting it at the beginning of the season. First, I want to start with Desmond Purnell. He is doing what great linebackers do. He's showing up when it matters most. Today, let's talk Purnell's breakout, the quiet battle, Austin Romaine, what he's fighting through, because that's something that's coming in, and why this defense looks playoff ready again. Chris Klieman is talking about Desmond Purnell in a new light because the last couple of weeks has been amazing for Desmond Purnell. What he has done, of course, the 2 interceptions against TCU. He led the team in tackles last week against Kansas, almost had another interception himself, a couple tackles for losses. He was fantastic. He was all over the field, and I expect to see that happen again this Saturday in Manhattan. Chris Klieman said, quote, he's healthier, more explosive, and a student of the game, a step ahead. You got to love getting that from Desmond Purnell, a guy that some fans earlier in the season questioned him being in the starting rotation because of missed tackles, because of potential being a liability in coverage. He fell into having the issues of the defense that most other players inside the Kansas State defense had at the beginning of the year. It's easy to go back and look now and say this Kansas State defense just wasn't prepared. They just weren't ready to start this season. Whether you want to make the excuse of saying that they didn't have enough spring practices, or they didn't make fall camp good enough, or the Dublin game in Ireland, I don't know. You can use whatever excuse you want. Whatever the case may be, the result is still the same. They weren't ready to begin this season. But what we have seen since the first bye week, after heading in and the UCF game and beyond, this defense has been different. And there's been moments where they've felt gassed. There's been moments where they haven't been the best defense in the Big 12 or the country, or maybe even in the state of Kansas. But I will say overall, they have really shined. And I think one of the breakout players, maybe even the most breakout player on the entire defense in the month of October, belongs to Desmond Purnell. And he comes and steps up at the perfect timing, because you would think that it would be a different guy, a different linebacker on this core that was really showing their true leadership. And that's Austin Romaine. Of course, having all of these preseason accolades, the thought process, myself included, saying, hey, this is an NFL draft pick, potentially a top 75 NFL draft pick. And then the season got in the way. There's been some issues with his health, and he's dealing with it again right now. In the Kansas game, he had something wrapped around his hand, and Chris Klieman kind of confirmed that on Monday. He said that, quote, Austin's playing with a hand injury, and he can't grip the ball, but he's still out there leading. And he said he felt really bad for Austin because he wants to be able to do more. He said he'll be the first to tell you that he didn't have a good game on Saturday, but him being out there and being able to make the right alignments and his football IQ is worth maybe those potential 7-8 missed tackles in the football game, something that Austin Romaine did, according to Pro Football Focus, something we talked about on yesterday's episode. You have to think that he's going to get better with that portion, and hopefully his hand heals by the end of the season or maybe later on in the year. I expect him to probably have a hand wrapped again on Saturday against Texas Tech if he decides to go. One thing I've seen is him not be seen on the availability report anywhere. So even though he's been dealing with an ailing injury, there has been no question that Austin Romaine was going to play in the game. And that alone should tell you that this guy has grit, and this guy has leadership, and this guy will do whatever it takes to get Kansas State winning a game like an upset against Texas Tech on Saturday. So you got to love that. That's Kansas State DNA, toughness and accountability. You can take that back to Snyder years. You can use it in Klieman years, whatever years you want to use. That is the K-State DNA. And you can tie in to Klieman's and Kleiderman's mob mentality, right? The mob mentality is getting that mind on ball kind of conversation, where no matter what, this defense is trying to get the ball back to the offense. And that's why they are trying their best to get all these takeaways. They now lead the country in takeaways with a primary focus that begins in practice and continues on into games, where they are trying to find a way to get the ball back to the offense. That's standard, according to Chris Klieman. He said, if you're not stripping the football, teammates call you out in practice. And that leads with guys like Austin Romaine and a couple of those other players as well. So even though Austin Romaine's dealing with injury, he's still being a huge leader on and off the field. And, I'm rooting for him, of course. I want to see him be a guy that we talk about being as one of the best linebackers in the country, because I still think he has the potential to do that. It's just unfortunately he's dealing with a hand injury that, of course, makes it hard to tackle and have a grip in playing football. Thankfully, guys like Desmond Purnell are stepping up big time, and that's exactly what we need when you're trying to play and win against a team who is, according to the Associated Press, top 15 in the country. Daniel Cobb's interception against KU, a textbook mob play, by the way, what Chris Klieman said. Leading the country in takeaways. Will they continue to make that the X factor against Texas Tech on Saturday? I think it really could be a big difference. It could be a huge difference. We're going to talk more Texas Tech on Thursday's episode with Lock On Texas Tech's host, Chris Level. We're going to get more of an insider look on how their injuries and how their pressure, because Texas Tech has a ton of pressure this season, trying to represent this new era of college football, getting themselves to the college ball playoffs, potentially all this money spent. If they fall short, what happens? Kansas State has a chance to change that and play spoiler this Saturday for sure. So let me know what you think about this defense. Is it peaking at the right time? Let me know your thoughts in the comment description below, and sub for extra episodes coming up very soon. We're going to dive more into Texas Tech. Again, crossover on Thursday, predictions on Friday, and of course, the reaction show on Saturday after the game. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you back here next time, right here on Locked On Kansas State.